Yeah, but I grew up like, you're a sinner. You know what I mean? You're born into sin. Like the moment you're into this earth, you're a sinner.
In this video, I'm going to be conducting an interview with somebody who has gone on the hero's journey, somebody who had a very messed up life and has a good life today. He's somebody that has become a friend of mine since I started the channel, and we just kind of connected because we had some very similar stories going on and some similar processes that we worked through. I believe that it is really important, actually, in this process to demonstrate how you've made it through the process. I believe that that emerges in the material. It's a little obscure. I don't want to get into it. Not everybody teaches it, but it is taught to be a demonstration to others when you find this path, to show others how it works. And that's exactly what this is. Having somebody open up about their life, which is very difficult. It can be very raw. Those are the things that we have hidden away and we don't want to talk about. So to have somebody be able to willingly express themselves means that they've done a lot of healing. And I put a lot of emphasis on what that person has experienced and what kind of a path that they might have to show me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and listen to what Lewis has to say. You came from Texas, right?
Yes, sir. I was born in Lubbock, Texas.
And
I grew up,
It was a Christian home, was it?
Oh yeah, our family was like, we were in Texas. You had to be Christian. But I say my parents were true, like, practicing Christians. No, but I went to Sunday school. I did the youth group every Wednesday, like Sunday church all the time. But if I was with my grandparents, for sure, I was going to church. Yeah, but I grew up like, you're a sinner. You know what I mean? You're born into sin. Like the moment you're into this earth, you're a sinner.
Did that scare you to know that as a kid? Or did
it broke me because I always felt, I've never felt comfortable in my own skin my whole life. And thinking that I was just sad. I always just felt like I was rejected from God for some reason, and I didn't understand it. Yeah. I was that kid that was just a little bit different than other. I was just sad. I was sad as a child, and I had a hard time connecting with God. I begged so hard, so many days for answers, and I just didn't get a whole lot.
Well, if I want to ask you if we can just maybe like a nutshell, perhaps a general overall. Was it childhood good, bad? What are the things you remember about it? Was there abuse, neglect, being told, what was it overall like? The impression that you left with, thinking that this is what has impacted my future, looking back on it.
Looking back, I grew up in a household that not truly abusive by any means, but neglect was there. And my mom, I absolutely love her, and she absolutely did her best. But I grew up with 5 fathers. My mom's been married, three regular times and 2 common law times. And talking about marriage for this guy, they're going to build a house together. And she just always seeked something to fill her hearts. And unbeknownst to her, seeking that love, thinking she's going to better herself for her kids, she left us on the back burner. And it truly, at that moment in my life, it broke me. And from that moment on, I trusted nobody. I was just a sad kid. By the time I was 11, I've already tried my first suicide. Like I ran into oncoming traffic because I just couldn't understand why my mom she couldn't love my dad, first of all. And it wasn't even my real dad. It was my second dad. But my first dad just ditched us the moment I was born. But it was my second dad that I called dad. And I couldn't understand it. And I grew up truly, and who raised me as a father figure I had a very angry grandpa. And you can see the cycles there. He raised my mother. My mom had daddy issues, and she raised me as a single parent. But I had 5 different dads, but those dads were never involved in my life, if you understand. My mom before I came to this place where I am now, I was very upset with my mom and my grandfather and God. And the government. When I was playing my victim, when I was deep in my addiction, I truly blamed my mother. Then I would blame my grandfather for raising me pretty aggressively. And those were the things I had to learn how to forgive. And once I realized Well, you're talking about our childhood. Summing it up, that was my childhood. I was very angry at my mother, very angry at my grandfather, and very angry at the government for putting me in the war.
You did go to Iraq, didn't you?
Yes, I was in Iraq in 2004 to 2005.
You know what? I don't want to pry. I don't want to ask questions. What I'm going to, because
I'm sorry.
Well, no, I know you well enough. We've talked a number of times now. What I'm going to actually ask you. I'm going to see if I can ask you to take the reins of this, and just kind of pretend like somebody came up to you and said, "Man, Mister, tell me what your life is like. I got to get myself straightened out. What did you go through, and what are the big points along the way? Where are you? What made you? How did you get from where you began? What was it like where you started?" And how did you get from there to here along the way? What are the high points that hurt you, that brought you to the point where you hit rock bottom? I'd like to hear that. And then from when the time you hit rock bottom and turned around, what got you to where you are now? Would that be okay?
Oh, perfect, brother. Just all I ask is kind of keep me on topic here and there. Don't let me get too far off.
Okay,
yeah,
I do that. I stray too, so it's okay. Yeah, I wander all over the place. It's like this big network, and you can go anywhere with it. So I lose track easily.
Well, my thing was, back to that. Is after my childhood, I truly, like I said, I was a child that I knew something had to be better than this. And so I thought, looking around with my only options, I decided to join the military. And I truly thought that was my answer. And at first it was, because they told me exactly what to do. You know, it was, that's what I've always been told by my grandfather raised me, and he raised me just to be a man, like a tough man. But he didn't argue none with them, you know? And so I joined the military thinking that was going to be the answer to all my hopes. And it was at first. And it was all good until I got sent to combat. And when I went to combat, I did exactly what I was trained to do. And in doing that, that broke me. Because coming back home, you have a kid that I had no coping skills. That's why I joined the military, because I was running away from the issues I couldn't handle there. I went to combat like at 22, 20, I can't remember exactly. I was young. And being an NCO, like being in charge of my own soldiers. And at the time, being very proud for what I did, because I did exactly what I was trained to do. But like I said, when I came back home, man, I had zero coping skills for what I did over there. But I was a hero. And it was just, that's what truly, at the end of the day, broke me. Where I hit a depression because the government was paying for me to be depressed and PTSD and all this. And I laid on a couch for a decade, and that's where the true hell begins. Like I truly, like a hell, like I can't put it any other way. Like, man.
What was that like, that 10 years? I mean, what did you do?
I went through such a darkness, man, that by the time I was 34 years old, the doctors told me, like, they can never predict cirrhosis to the liver. They can just give you a roundabout, like, brother, it's getting close. Those enzyme levels are so harmful, so consistently that it could be within months, it could be within a year, but you're going to have it soon. And I just looked them in the face and didn't give a fuck.
So you're just drinking alcohol.
I was taking, too, is the VA pills. I got really addicted to benzodiazepam. I got it at Xanax, stuff like the Clozapine. It's literally alcohol in a pill. But there was, after I came back from war, and I got out of the military because I just struggled too much. Like I just could not keep my shit together. And when I got out, the military's taking care of me. I'm a disabled veteran, 100%. And my mind was so broken that I had to figure out something. And this is what did kind of help. I joined school. Because the thing is, I wanted to understand why my mind, I don't know if I was because I'm a type of seeker, if I've always been seeking, but my mind it knew this wasn't the answers, but I didn't know how to handle it. And brother, I've been locked in the mental hole. I've gone crazy once, like truly, I've been locked in the mental hole more than 5-6 times, like a mental home. It's called the Plaza in Lubbock, Texas. They have one in Amarillo and one in Big Springs, where I've been in those. I failed rehab literally 6 times. So truly, I was so self-destructive. Like, so I got DWIs back to back a week apart. Literally, you know how many I woke up thinking of suicide and went to bed thinking of suicide. It was that, like,
It's a good
to
story.
where I attempted it twice. I got a scar on my wrist, so I cut the wrist out of desperation, just to let everybody know I'm really hurting, but not really to kill myself, you know? At the time I was like, I'm going to kill myself in front of everybody, too. My mom, forgive me, Mom. I'm so sorry for that. Shot blood was shooting everywhere and shit. And the second time I got swatted because I had a gun in my mouth and the police had to come in and get the door. And the third time, I just truly told nobody and took all my medications and went to bed with my first wife. So I destroyed that too. And by the grace of God, she just checked while I wasn't to bed and checked on me and found me in my vomit. Rushed me to the hospital. Like, it was that difficult. And literally after all this, they were telling me, like, my mom had to take custody. Like, they were trying to take custody of me because I would go, like, they would take all my money away, my cars away. I didn't have a license. I had back-to-back. And they would leave me in the house. I couldn't even be in my own home. Because I would get out and go ask neighbors for money. Or go ask neighbors, like, I would come that homeless man begging for alcohol. Like, I would go do it. Even though I'm getting paid $4,000 a month or whatever I get paid a month back then. And just go beg for alcohol. And just make up crazy lies. My mom would have to go. There's a 30-year-old man. My mom would have to go to the neighbors and say, please forgive me. Like, my son, please don't give him alcohol. No matter what he tells you. I finally got to the point my mom just threw me out of the house. Like, I was telling my mom I'm going to kill myself, and I had a knife in the kitchen. And she would have a scar on my arm, and she bit me. She was biting my arm, trying to get the knife out of my arm. And finally she said, you have to get the fuck out of here. Like, this is if you want to kill yourself, it's on you. That's how dark it got. And for 10 years, I just laid there and just absolutely unequivocally became identified as 100% a victim. And that's what truly shot me onto the springboard, because I had something to identify with. It wasn't a healthy thing. I was letting life be my guru. And the thing is, life is a beautiful guru, but you have to understand this. It's just going to show you the cycles. It's not going to show you the answers. And it's up to you to figure out those cycles. And that's where I just started catching on, like, brother, either I'm going to kill myself. Then I got my second wife pregnant, and that's when I made that ultimatum. Either I'm going to be so happy by the time my daughter's 5. If I'm not, I'm just going to disappear out of her life. And I was just going to end it. Because I knew I didn't have my dad at around 4 or 5, and he passed away, and I know it doesn't hurt that bad. So that was my ultimatum.
What is it? I mean, at some point in time, you must have said, I had it. I got to do something different.
That's what I'm saying. I gave myself an ultimatum that I was with my wife, and my wife got pregnant, and I quit drinking, and I tried, here's my thing.
Marijuana. Let me stop for a second. There's a gap there between being on the couch for 10 years and then having the kids. There's a spot
well,
there
this is what
missing.
It was. I had a cousin after my divorce. I had a cousin that came in to see me, and he lived in Denver, and this is when medical marijuana was taken off, like in 2014 and stuff. And he's seen all my VA pills. And he literally told me, like, brother, come try this medical marijuana. And growing up, I loved alcohol. I even dabbled in cocaine in high school. Anything like didn't make me think about anything, like an interest, like a psychedelic, I liked. But marijuana, I hated. And he offered to try this marijuana and told me to come move in his basement. I went and lived there for about 4 years, and it took me time to quit drinking, and it took me time to get off the beat. But after about 4 years of being there, I stuck with the medical marijuana. And I ended up meeting, long story short, I had a relapse, got drunk, and me and my cousin got in a huge fight, and he ended up kicking me out. So I went back to my old ways. And I was desperately looking for someone to live with again. I had a friend in Florida that offered me to come live there, and it didn't work out well. And my wife now helped take care of me pretty much. That's where I'm here now.
So you met her before she was your wife, obviously, and she helped.
Yeah, I met her in Iraq. She was an interpreter in Iraq.
Oh.
Like, she is, I'm truly blessed. She was I say my interpreter, but she was appointed interpreter to me in Iraq. And she was an Iraqi civilian that made it to America. And she married this beautiful young man.
Huh. That's a wonderful story. That's a wonderful turnaround. Okay, so
is.
let's jump ahead then. And at some point, I remember there's a part that I want to hear again, because I remember this. It was an important part for me, and I think it's very important for people along the way. You were telling me there was a point where you were growing and you were like making amends, going around and talking to people, and they just finally said, "Get the hell away. I can't hear anymore. Go away. I don't want to." You're apologizing. You're trying to come clean, and they're saying, "Get out." Because I've had that same experience, and I think it's a part of this process sometimes.
Well, with my biggest deal on that, I went through a phase where I wanted to juggle no more thoughts in my head. And I want to take response for all those things I felt bad for. Like, that I called all those ex-dads, dude, and their craziness. And, like, literally called them and said I loved them. Like, Mitchell, I fought Mitchell in my front yard, like, cop styles, cops showing up, like, literally shit like this. And called him and I said, "I love you, Mitchell." And he's like, "How do you get my number, first of all?" And I'm like, I want to ask for just saying I'm sorry I didn't give you a fair chance. And I did this with Dawn. I did this, and in doing this, I had to realize that how was I?
You know what? Let me. Why would you feel it important to make amends?
Except my thing, I didn't want to juggle the thoughts no more. I wanted those amends to go. And I was just going to try my absolute best. And if they could do it, then cool. But if they couldn't, that's on them now.
So you're clearing your conscience. You're trying to clear your conscience of things that are trapped inside. You want to get them out.
But I also realized, talking to dear friends, that they're just some things that only you can forgive yourself for. Like, if you're going to apologize for stuff that brings up horrible memories and hurting people and stuff, like, you just have to be careful on doing that. Cause I didn't want to juggle anything in my head no more. Like, I truly I still to this day, I try my absolute best. Let me tell a little bit of a white lie. Like I said, if you tell even one lie, you have to juggle a plate. You have to juggle a thought in your head to keep it real. Because what if someone else's, or you get checked on it? And I realized, having any kind of these thoughts, I didn't want any of them in my head. I went and told my wife every lie I've ever told her. I told my mom every lie I've ever told her. So I've just told everybody every lie I've ever said. And I've said literally a lot, being an addict and an asshole. But I take full responsibility for it.
It's got to be tough on them, huh?
Now talking to you, like, I get a little nervous. But, brother, at the end of the day, it's easy to say it because it's just truth. And if it hurts, that means you're still not taking responsibility for it.
Yeah, I find that things hurt. You get trapped. The more you talk them out, the more you talk about them with the idea that you want to heal. You're trying to understand it. You're trying to become free of it. As long as you're talking about it in that way, it progressively heals. You progressively get better and better to the point to where you go, okay, I got this. Where it can be very emotionally difficult to begin with. But to that point, I was just going to say the same thing, because I think that could be a gotcha for people on the path. If you get to a point where you think, I am done, I want to make up for what I've done. I was listening to the whistle for a while.
Huh?
I was listening to the whistle for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I had music going on in the background. I apologize. I was turning it down.
Oh, that's okay. So I guess what I was going to say is what's important, I think, for people here in this step is that there is a point where I can remember going up to people and saying, look, I'd like to try to straighten this out. Let's try to, come to some terms here, come to an understanding. I apologize for the way I have had people at that moment look at me sternly, yell at me, and I don't want to repeat it here, but do you feel better about yourself now? They don't want to do that. You're trying to figure things out, and they're telling you, get the hell out of my face. I don't even want to see you.
Well, what you're doing, you're trying to force them to heal on your terms, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I realized that, because I said some things that, as a child, I did some ugly things to some folks, and I was saying things that I'm like, brother, like, why are you telling me this now? Like, because in reality, they still haven't dealt with it, you know? And you're forcing me to heal. Like, who are you? And then it comes off as judgment, really.
Before I forget this point, I want to say one more thing because I think this is an important part that I have also in those cases when the people did come around, they would suddenly just start acting like everything was okay. They wouldn't come up and say, "Hey, let's go ahead and resolve that now. Let's talk it out." They would just pretend like it didn't happen. So as I'm trying to resolve things, they're storing things away. You can see that happening. And what happens eventually, it emerges again. Those were long-term work environments where things continued to cycle. But it can be difficult when you're healing, when you're working with other people because they don't have that. They may not be where you are. They're not okay.
See, this is where this is where I was truly blessed though, because I am a disabled vet. I get to stay. This is where I'm so. If it wasn't for the VA, man, I wouldn't be here. Because I've got it. Like, yes, it took me a decade to figure out. I could ponder my own thoughts and maybe stop my own suffering. But if it wasn't for that decade to try to get there through all that shit and that suffering, like, if I had to work, I'm just so blessed, like I'm saying, because if I had to work, bro, I wouldn't be in this kind of, like, there's no way I could have soul searched like I do. Like I said, I wake up so early in the morning, and I call it me time. I call it loving Lewis. Like, when I'm in my run group, everybody laughs. I call it loving Lewis time.
I want to hear a couple things about your life today. Your running group, just like, quickly.
I'm a run group. I'm part of a group that truly, if anybody can get part of a beautiful workout group, people, especially early in the morning, because you have to realize people that go early in the morning are the people that are not bitching about life. People that are truly want to better their situation, and they're all generally just upbeat folks. And I went in there weighing 252 pounds. Now I weigh 180, 185. Well, that's a lie. I weighed 188 today. Forgive me. But they truly helped me become me. I was in this process of not drinking. I was truly trying to get off I was on so many SSRIs. I was all the way up to, just on so many VA pills.
The SSRIs are what?
Well, they're antidepressants and stuff like that.
Okay.
I was just on all kinds of antidepressants and benzodiazepams, like Clozapine and Xanax. And
are you on those now?
Oh, no, son.
What are you on now?
Just a little bit. I use medical marijuana. That's it.
Okay.
And I do a lot of running because it keeps my lungs clean. Because outside of that and sugar, I try to be as healthy as I possibly can. But back to my run group, I found a beautiful group because I was seeking. So when you're seeking this, for me, it was terrifying to do it all by myself. Like, it's terrifying knowing that if I fail, I have no one to blame but me. And I found out going into a group, because I found other groups that just didn't work out well, but I found this one group that, and they always were happy, always telling jokes at 5 a.m. Like, you get there at 4:45 in the morning, and we start at 5. And you're either running 5 to 6 miles, or you're doing a shit ton of push-ups, set-ups, jumping jacks for an hour. But everybody's happy. Yeah. Everybody talks kind of about that. It's our daily therapy in the morning. Like, gosh dang, my kids were upsetting me, and we talk a little therapy with each other. And that group truly just trajected me into just, I finally seen the beauty in me. I could see not being fat anymore. Like, I could see the beauty in myself, and just trajected me even up more, realizing this body is a temple. Like, this body, man, if you only have this thing one time, why put shit in it all day long? You know what I mean? Truly try your best, and just truly try your best to keep it going.
You got another physical activity you're highly involved in. Can you tell me about that? I do
martial art. I teach boxing and kickboxing. That's one of my other therapies. So I had so much anger, and I wasn't angry at the world per se. I'd be angry at myself. Like, I wouldn't hurt others, but man, I was a cutter. Like, I would cut myself. Like, I was just so self-destructive. And I found in martial arts, not punching people, not that, but man, I could go in there and punch a bag and release all this damn angerness I had in me. And I didn't realize you could do that. I didn't realize punching this shit and working out truly released that energy that just didn't make me feel good. And all I had to do was work out, And all the other times I was just putting alcohol on top of it and pills on top of it and just trying to get this energy that's made me feel like shit. Excuse me. And I could literally go to he turned out to be my best friend because I fell in love with the place, and now I teach there. But man, it's a blessing and they're both within 10 minutes of me.
How long have you been there now, doing the kickboxing? And
I've been teaching kickboxing since November, but I've been going there since about 2015, 16, probably somewhere around there. In a boot camp, the same thing.
And you teach the youngsters?
Oh, I teach everybody. I teach adults, youngsters.
Okay,
I got kids about to have a fight on the 17th, and I can send you pictures where I thought I broke my nose the other day, where I got kneed right in the face. I shouldn't have ducked. I should have weaved.
Your wife's a Muslim?
Yes, my wife is. Yeah, she's Muslim.
We don't have to talk about that. Mine is too. I'm throwing all the things on the table here.
Well, no, my wife's a beautiful Muslim. Like when I say she's like strict, hardcore Muslim, because her mother's like really hardcore Muslim. No, but we definitely have Muhammad in the house. She says her prayers here and there.
My wife left, and actually her whole family abandoned her. So she's like me. We left our religions and went a different path. That's okay. What I wanted to get to was, I mean, you got a couple of kids now. Life is good for you, huh? You. Whenever we talk, you leave me feeling like upbeat and feeling good. You have that effect.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that very deeply, because I try to. But it's not even I try to, honestly, brother. It's just.
Well, it just comes out of you. Yeah, I think you're just expressing your natural self.
Here's the thing. I truly hated myself so deeply, as a child. Like, I told you this before, like as a child, like as a very young child, I can remember if I was like 9 or 10, maybe 11, my grandpa called me a worthless piece of shit. And that's because I couldn't drive a standard pickup. No shit. And he threw me out of the truck, and that stuck with me.
How old were you?
And it literally, probably 10, maybe 9, 10, 11 at the time. Like I learned how to drive like a regular car on 9. I'm just a hillbilly kid from West Texas. I grew up on cotton farming and cotton ginning. And that stuck with me. And I literally hated, I started every conversation off in my head with, hey, you piece of shit. Then when I joined the military, they had shitbird or shitbag in the military. And it turned into, hey, shitbag. But I hated myself so much. Back to what I was saying. I hated myself. Then one day I just flipped loving myself. I'm like, if you could hate yourself that freaking much, Lewis, why can't you just love yourself? And now, brother, like anytime, any thought that comes up, anything, like entertainment, like I just try not to even entertain just dumb stuff. Like a car cut me off, and I have like a thought come in my head, like, this son of a bitch. I'm like, brother, just love. And I just say love. Like, I just will kick it out, because before I knew, because I've experienced it. For 34 years, I called myself I started the conversation off in your head, you piece of shit, let's go take out the trash. Hey, you piece of shit, let's go take a piss. So I knew, like, brother, let's flip it. And so anytime anything comes, that piece of shit thought, anything, just love shoots out. And now it's not even, I just do it. I don't have to catch it anymore. I just, hey, love, brother, no needs.
So you've made a big turnabout in the way you view yourself, or how you manage treating yourself.
Absolutely. I don't even, that Lewis before doesn't even exist. It can't exist.
Self-observing, you still have to work at it, don't you? You got to watch it, huh? It doesn't just...
Well, it will try to come up, yes. It will try to come up, especially the only time it truly comes up just with my wife and money. Those are the only two anything, because my kids, no one's in charge of my happiness. Not even my kids. And the only thing I struggle with sometimes is my wife, because she grew up a Muslim tough woman, like in a third world country, where literally life isn't, it's almost impossible for them to see life like I do. You know what I mean? Because they just grew up in a third world country.
And vice versa.
And I got someone ringing my doorbell.
Okay. It's okay, I can edit this part out. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's probably my neighbor kids looking for my daughter.
It's okay, I can chop this out. We're into a half an hour.
Me some corn. Thank you so much, Virgil. I appreciate that. Love you. How'd the COVID you get it went on well?
Yeah. There's a farmer selling those out here on Little Rock Road. We bought a bunch of them. So if you...
Oh, I do. I love corn. Thank you. You have a blessed day. If you ever need anything, give me a holler. Have a blessed day. That's my neighbor bringing me some corn. Sorry about that.
No, it's perfect. That's good life right there. That's good
He
stuff.
brought me like 20 years of corn, fresh corn picked
Well,
from
you
the
know
farmer's
what,
market.
Lewis, we're over a half an hour into it. I don't know if we should make it, try to wrap it up.
But it's whatever you need.
Hang on a second. I'll wait till you're done banging around.
Okay, I'm down there. It's whatever you need, brother.
Any other point? Is there anything else you would want to say to people if they were like?
If anything I wanted to say.
I know. Let me start that. Let me start that again.
Okay.
Before we go, is there anything that you would just offer up on your own that you can think of based on your own experience? If you could give advice to somebody that's like starting out and going, I don't even know what to do. What would you tell them?
In simple form, I would tell you that you're enough. I can understand you're a complete soul. You're not a broken soul. You're not two split into one. You're enough. You're complete. You're just lost. Lost to this idea that you aren't complete. Lost to the idea that you're broken. Lost to the idea that something is wrong with you. And you're seeking something so much that you don't even realize that it's you. And that's what took me so long so hard. I seek to almost went crazy. Like I seek to the point where I almost got put back in the middle bin. Because I was writing all over my walls, writing verses down, like seeing patterns like you were doing. But when I would go out in public, I thought I was some kind of chosen one. Like I would tell people things that just because I had knowledge from books, I went to college, to understand the mind. And I would say things that would just hurt, like making people heal on the spot. And people don't want, like in my head, I'm just like, I'm telling you truth. You need to hear these things. But in reality, they're not ready to hear these things. And yes, you're saying things if someone was ready to heal, beautiful. But if you're saying someone that's living in denial right now, all you're going to do is crush their hearts. And I started doing this to people, and I heard a lot of friendships doing that. But
yeah,
the thing, just knowing that you're complete and that you're enough, and there's nothing to seek outside of you. All you got to do, this is why I say meditation is so important for me, is sit down, close your eyes. You're not trying to stop your mind. You're not trying to stop your heartbeat. You're not trying to touch God. All you're trying to do is the thoughts that come to your head very first are the ones with the most energy. And when those thoughts come in your head, be thankful that thought comes to your head, because now you know what your problem is. Like a thought comes to your head like, gosh, I'm not having enough money right now. I'm struggling. What's going on? I can't pay this bill. Okay. Now you got to think, here's your problem. You're not making enough money. What's the issue? Do we need to get a better job? Or is it because you didn't have an education? Do we need to get a better education? What do we need to do so we can address this instead of going, fuck, man, it's just because I'm living a poor part of town. I got no chances. No one ever gives me a shot. And you play the blame game. But when you sit there and you're a true seeker, and you know this, you start addressing those thoughts. And you start taking responsibility for those thoughts. And I promise you, sit there over time. And if you do this truly, because it's easy to take responsibility of the fun responsibility. Like if you hit the lottery, it's easy spending that money. You know what I mean? But it's hard when you're facing a death, a molestation, anything like that. It's people run from it.
Right.
And truly, just like I said, when you close your eyes and these thoughts come to your head, know that those are the thoughts that need to be addressed. And once you get to a point of clarity where you realize that you are enough, you are complete, and there's no need to search anything but yourself. Like truly, you're the only one that's going to answer anything within you. Nobody else. This is my interpretation.
How's your life now? You've got daughters?
I've got 2 daughters. I'm living the life that I've always wanted to live. What was crazy, when you're an alcoholic, what happens? You're skipping the responsibility of being happy. You're not taking responsibility for your happiness, but the alcohol is letting you be happy by bypassing the responsibility. And I was this beautiful human being before my true addiction was kicking off, because it doesn't last forever, because the hero's journey has to begin somewhere, And the alcohol, I always wanted to be that person that everybody loved, wanted to be around. I just felt good in my own skin, And now I'm getting to be that person without anything. I'm living a dream. Like I'm living in a home that you would have told me 10 years ago that it's worth over $350,000 right now. Like, and you would tell anybody that where I'm from, they would have told you that they would can't live about a home, more or less, and have a beautiful home. And I have 2 girls that will never understand true alcoholism. They've never seen me take a drink. The only time they've seen people drink twice. And I don't judge none. I give 2 shits. But they'll never see, because I grew up with my dad just stumbling in the home, mom being upset. Then me becoming an alcoholic, going, why am I doing this? I don't want to drink, but I can't stop it.
So when you grew up, there was alcohol
everywhere. It was so prevalent. Like, it's cute. I'm sorry.
Oh, and that's okay. What I was going to point out here is that you said you had it changed before your kids came along, which means that you were involved in that chain, and you actually, right at this point, you broke that chain. You're giving them a completely different experience that they're growing up with that is not going to wire them to have that kind of pain that you had. You've changed that. That's wonderful. You changed the future.
And I'm truly blessed for you. Thank you. And like, I just teach my daughters, all I teach my daughters, because at the end of the day, they are the closest thing to innocence that can be. I'm talking people believe in the Bibles, the innocence of the child is what's going to get you to the needle of an eye or whatever it says. You know what I mean? And what has happened, they just have no self-control. And I just teach my daughter self-control. That's take responsibility for your actions. I literally, my daughter will tell me if I leave the refrigerator door open or something, and she's fine. Daddy, take responsibility for your actions, and she'll shut the door. And that's all. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to actually ask a question. Do you influence the girls in any way religiously or?
Oh, my wife does. She wants them to be Muslim for sure. And I love this too, because my wife here lately has become a pretty big, more of a Muslim and praying for the kids. Because our neighbors are real Christian folks. They're homeschooled, beautiful. I love their kids. And my daughter started talking Jesus. And my wife's like, oh no. And she started talking I'm like, Isra, stop doing that. So all you're going to do is cause confusion. How about who sets the best example she picks? How about you start teaching her by a good example and let her choose? And after that, my wife just started praying every morning, every night. This was about 3 or 4 months ago. So for me, I like hair, because if you're seeking something, at least I'm blessed for it, because you're going to realize one day you can't seek anything but yourself. But you got to start somewhere. You know what I mean? But religious-wise, I just teach them to love. I tell them all the time, literally, all I ask you to do is listen and be kind.
Yeah. I learned at the right time in life. I didn't grow up this way, but I learned later on in life that you're supposed to teach your children how to think. Don't tell them what to think.
Oh, my daughters
Let them
too.
figure it out on their own.
Why? I always tell them, you tell me why. Well, I don't know, Dad. I'm like, well, until you figure it out, come back.
That's a good mental exercise. Yeah. People need to do that. Well, it just makes them,
look, I will try to, she asks something crazy, why are the clouds forming? I'm like, sweetheart, it's because of evaporation. I'll give them the text, but they're always going to ask why, because they have no clue what evaporation is and condensation. And I'm like, then you tell me why, and she'll it's good. And she'll just make up some randomness about some JoJo see what she's seen on the YouTube. But I let this, that is a problem nowadays. Kids can't think for themselves. They go straight to Google. They know where to search, but they don't know. Ask them the Declaration of Independence, what year is written. Ask them any kind of craziness. There's some funny YouTube channels where they're just interviewing college kids, just asking them simple, basic questions, and kids can't answer them. They can tell you where to Google it. Well, let me go to search bar real quick. Let me Google it.
Right. Yeah, life is definitely changing. It's not like it was when these stories first were the media. Let me see. Did we cover everything? I guess I do want to wrap it up. I might have to edit some out, or it's actually good.
Do whatever you need to do. Just thank you for the beautiful opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I can't think of anything else. What I want to do, though, is on behalf of everybody that's going to benefit from your story, is to thank you for being able to come on and just express yourself in ways that many people would not find okay for themselves to do. That it's I mean, you set a good example, the perfect example, the right example, and I thank you. That's more important than telling people what to do all day long. Showing them what you did and how life changes that's what makes people decide for themselves whether they're going to do it.
And I think what you're doing is a very beautiful thing by empowering people to want to change instead of, like you said, telling people you got to do it this way, and if you don't, you're not going to get it. Or if you do it this way, you're going to go somewhere that's not happy.
That's the way.
Just, hey, it's a choice on you, and brother, if you reach your nirvana, cool. If you don't, man, you're just, this life's on you. I'm not worried about you. You don't dictate my happiness. As long as you're not hurting yourself or others, man, go find your best interpretation of this ride, because you're going to die one day.
Right. All right.
Well, thank you, brother, and thank you for everything. I truly appreciate it, and man,
I'm very fortunate. Lewis, hey, I love you, brother. Thanks for your time.
I love you too. Have a blessed day, and reach out anytime, son.
Say hi to your kids and wife for me. We'll talk to you later.
Oh, you too. Bye.
All righty, bye-bye. That's Lewis's story. Love one another. I'll see you in the next video.